Ladies and gentlemen, sworn congressional testimony just turned personal in the most shocking and unprofessional way imaginable. Attorney General Pam Bondi, the highest law enforcement official in the United States, looked Ranking Member Jamie Raskin dead in the eyes during a heated House Judiciary Committee hearing and unleashed one of the most jaw-dropping personal insults ever captured on camera in such a setting. "You don't tell me anything," she shouted, her voice rising with clear frustration. "You washed-up loser lawyer, you're not even a lawyer." In that single explosive moment, the entire oversight hearing on the Department of Justice's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein files shifted dramatically from serious questions about transparency, redactions, victim protection, and accountability for powerful co-conspirators to raw, our unfiltered personal attack. This wasn't a minor slip or a heated aside. This was the Attorney General, under oath, going after a sitting member of Congress, a former constitutional law professor no less, with language that sounded more like a schoolyard taunt than official testimony. The room reacted with immediate tension, murmurs spreading as the weight of her words sank in, and this clip has already gone mega-viral across social media and news highlights for obvious reasons. It captures the boiling point of partisan frustration in one of the most sensitive scandals still haunting American politics 7 years after Epstein's death. Let's take a step back and set the full stage so you understand exactly why this moment exploded the way it did. We are deep inside the February 11th, 2026, a House Judiciary Committee oversight hearing focused on Attorney General Pam Bondi and the DOJ's controversial management of the massive Jeffrey Epstein files release. This was no ordinary session. Democrats had come prepared with sharp accusations from the very beginning. Ranking Member Jamie Raskin opened by directly accusing the DOJ of running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. He pointed to the numbers that have frustrated so many. Congress subpoenaed over 6 million documents, photographs, and videos, yet only about 3 million had been released so far. The DOJ claimed the rest were duplicative, but critics argued that real victim statements, prosecution memos from 2019, and other critical materials were being withheld or heavily redacted. Even worse, in the portion that was released, and names of alleged abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators were allegedly scrubbed to spare them embarrassment, while some victims' names and sensitive details were accidentally left exposed, a failure that survivors and advocates called reckless and dangerous. Epstein survivors were physically present in the hearing room, sitting just behind Bondi, adding an extra layer of emotional weight to every exchange. The pressure was intense because this wasn't abstract policy talk. This was about why, after all these years since Epstein's 2019 death in custody, ruled a suicide amid massive irregularities, so few powerful names from those files had faced real accountability or new indictments. Earlier in the hearing, Raskin had issued a clear, polite, but firm warning to Bondi. He told her straight up, "We ask you politely but firmly, please do not waste 1 second of our precious time with long meandering answers or filibustering." Each member only gets 5 minutes for questioning, and Democrats were determined not to let the clock run out on the hard issues, questions about how many Epstein co-conspirators had actually been indicted under her watch, why certain high-profile names remained protected, and whether the release process truly prioritized victims or shielded the powerful. Bondi had been defending the DOJ's efforts throughout the day, repeatedly citing the involvement of over 500 attorneys, thousands of review hours, and the challenges of balancing transparency with victim privacy and ongoing litigation. She emphasized arrests in other areas of child exploitation and invited Congress to come review remaining files themselves. But as the questioning wore on, especially from Democrats like Representative Jerry Nadler, the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. Accusations of deflection, evasion, and even theatrics started flying both ways. That is precisely the powder keg that set the stage for this viral explosion at roughly the 3-hour mark. Now let's walk through the play-by-play of those critical seconds in meticulous detail so you can feel exactly how the confrontation unfolded. Representative Jerry Nadler was actively questioning Attorney General Bondi about the slow pace of prosecutions tied to the Epstein files. He pressed her directly. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating right now? Nadler contrasted this with the DOJ's aggressive actions in other high-profile cases, like implying a possible double standard when it came to powerful figures named in the Epstein documents. Bondi began responding in her characteristic detailed style, circling back to broader DOJ achievements, border security numbers, general crime reductions, and the complexity of the review process. Her answers grew lengthy, which is when Ranking Member Jamie Raskin decided to intervene to protect the committee's time. Raskin spoke up firmly, reminding everyone of the earlier warning he had given Bondi at the start of the hearing. "I told you about that, Attorney General, before we started," he said. "You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch, not on our time." His tone was measured and procedural, the voice of someone trying to keep oversight on track rather than escalate. But Bondi was having none of it. She snapped back almost instantly, her frustration clearly boiling over. "You don't tell me anything!" she shouted, and then came the full unfiltered insult that has dominated headlines. "You washed-up loser lawyer! You're not even a lawyer!" The words landed like a thunderclap. Raskin, a seasoned constitutional law professor who has taught for years and played key roles in major congressional proceedings, stared back without immediate escalation, though he later responded in interviews with humor, joking that he was a washed-up law professor, not a lawyer. The room filled with uneasy murmurs and tension. Chairman Jim Jordan and others had to step in to restore some order, reminding everyone to maintain decorum. In under 20 seconds, the nation's top law enforcement officer had pivoted from defending complex policy to launching a direct, highly personal attack on a sitting congressman who was simply enforcing basic time rules during questioning about one of the biggest unresolved scandals in recent history. This wasn't subtle deflection. This was raw emotion breaking through the surface in real time. Let's analyze why this moment carries so much weight and why it resonates so strongly with viewers. First, the irony is impossible to ignore and makes the insult land even harder. Jamie Raskin is widely respected as a constitutional scholar and former law professor. Calling him a washed-up loser lawyer who's not even a lawyer is not only factually off base but comes across as petty, unprofessional, and beneath the office of the Attorney General. So it happened right in the middle of sworn testimony, during a hearing where the stakes involved justice for Epstein victims, potential cover-ups, redactions that may protect the powerful, and the slow pace of accountability for co-conspirators. Instead of engaging directly with Nadler's questions about indictments or Raskin's procedural point, Bondi chose to go personal. This fits a broader pattern that critics highlighted throughout the hearing. When pressed on uncomfortable topics like the burn book tracking of lawmakers' search history in the Epstein files, accidental victim exposures, or the lack of new high-profile prosecutions, the response often shifted to accusations of theatrics, partisan attacks, or pivots to other DOJ successes. The room felt that shift instantly, from focused oversight to chaotic shouting and personal jabs. Supporters of Bondi might see it as understandable frustration after hours of what they view as politically motivated grilling, especially given the highly partisan nature of the committee. But for many watching, it raised deeper questions about temperament and accountability at the highest levels. If the Attorney General resorts to this kind of language when simply asked to stay on time during Epstein-related questioning, what does that suggest about the DOJ's willingness to face full transparency on the remaining files? The Epstein scandal has always thrived on public suspicion of protection for the elite. Moments like this only fuel that fire, turning procedural tension into viral drama that millions share in debate. On this personal insult from Attorney General Pam Bondi during sworn testimony over the Epstein files is just one vivid snapshot of how deeply polarized and heated the battle over transparency and justice has become. The hearing as a whole featured multiple shouting matches, survivor hand-raising moments where no one had been consulted by the DOJ, accusations of spying on Congress via search histories, and repeated defenses citing massive review efforts. Yet this washed-up loser-lawyer exchange cut through because it was so human, so unscripted, and so far outside normal decorum for such a serious topic. Will more fireworks erupt as Congress continues demanding unredacted access, full accountability for any mishandling of victim information, and real progress on prosecuting those named in the files? Or will the powerful names remain shielded behind layers of legal review, litigation claims, and political deflection? The American people, especially the survivors still waiting for full justice, deserve straight answers without the theatrics on either side. One thing is certain after today: the pressure on the Epstein files is only intensifying, and moments of raw tension like this reveal exactly how much is at stake when powerful institutions face real oversight. If you want every explosive moment from this Epstein files hearing broken down without spin, in clear chronological detail with context and analysis, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Drop a comment below and let us know what you think. Was Pam Bondi's insult completely out of line for the Attorney General? Or do you see it as understandable frustration after hours of tough, repetitive questioning? Should officials be held to a higher standard of professionalism during sworn testimony on something as serious as the Epstein scandal? We read every comment and used them to shape future videos. We are committed to covering every new development in this ongoing story as Congress keeps pushing, as more files potentially surface, and as the public demands real accountability for the victims. The Epstein files saga is far from over, and we will be here for every single twist, every heated exchange, and every revelation. Thank you so much for watching. Stay informed, stay engaged, and we will see you in the very next video dropping soon.